Hi, I have a question for you. So, where is your mind right now? So, I can tell you this that in the month of August, between working like crazy because most of my clients are in the education field, so getting teachers ready to go back to school, between vacation, which included a 3-day trip with my husband, which was lovely for our anniversary, and then also training. So I've had 11 days already in the month of August that I've been out of the office in a training. And I can tell you this, that it's August 20th, and we have a lot of August to go. There's a lot to happen in the rest of the month. Not to mention dealing with, a global pandemic, kids getting ready to go to school, and that's a whole nother thing. My husband is still home, probably going to be home working for the next few months, which, is neither good nor bad, just is, right? And then in the last couple days, things just have kind of caught up to me. So you might have noticed if you listen to the blog or watch the videos or listen to the podcast, I went missing for a couple days, and I'll tell you why. Man, I just needed to pull back a little bit and really reflect on my life, have a little rest, kind of take an inventory of what's happening right now, where am I at, where do I want to be, and making sure that I'm in the right energy level so that when I come and I work with you, that I'm bringing good energy to you, not frantic, overworked, frustrated energy, because you don't need that, right? And then I read this quote this morning. I'm going to read it right from the book that I keep my quotes in. It says, and it's by Craig D. Lounsbrough. Not exactly who that is. It was in a book that I was studying. But the quote says, "I don't know if what I'm afraid of is the state of the world. Rather, I think what I'm afraid of is the state of my attitude about the state of the world." Let me read that one more time. I don't know if what I'm afraid of is the state of the world. Rather, I think what I'm afraid of is the state of my attitude about the state of the world. And that's really just kind of been noodling around in my mind for the last couple days, and I've been thinking about that. And when I was on my walk this morning, I was like, oh, definitely know what I'm going to do for my podcast this morning. So, we talk about how changing your thoughts can literally change your life, right? So you can't control necessarily the circumstances or conditions around you. Now, I understand to an extent, right? Because we all have some power. So if you're in an environment that's not conducive to your growth, you can change, right? You can go to a different environment. You can say, hey, I can use my current environment for my growth. I actually have several clients right now that we're working on. They're in some sort of transition in their life. They're either getting ready to start a new thing. They're in the midst of transitioning, finding what that new thing is, or maybe they just made that leap and they're now into the new thing, but not quite sure what to do, right? So sometimes when you're in that transition, and the greatest example of this is maybe you're in a job that you absolutely hate, right? So you have a choice. Are you going to stay or are you going to leave, right? And if you stay, you have to have a reason for staying. So perhaps you could stay in those circumstances and conditions and say, okay, what can I learn about myself and others while I'm here? And if you go, you can't just leave. You've got to actually go towards something. And maybe you don't know what that thing is fully and completely. And that's why it's really important to work with somebody like a coach who can help you with that transition plan so that you don't just kind of jump off a cliff and hope that you don't get hurt. Okay? So you can't necessarily control your circumstances, your conditions, the people around you, right? But you can control your thinking and your attitude. So much like this quote, he's saying, hey, listen, I don't think I'm really scared about what's going on in the world. I'm just a little bit more concerned about what I think about what's going on in the world, okay? So I'll give you 3 examples from my own life. So, I realized the last couple days, my body was just exhausted. I had been going for so long. And yeah, some of it was great stuff and some of it was really cool stuff, but yet I hadn't taken that rest. So I couldn't control at that point that my body was exhausted, right? But what could I do? well, I could pull back. I could say, okay, I'm going to have some self-care. And I did. Thank you to all of you who have reached out. I know I kind of threw something out there in social media just to let people know, hey, I'm still alive. I promise. I'm just taking care of myself right now. And I've had great feedback from people about, yes, Michelle, way to go. You're actually doing what you're preaching. And then also just your care and concern. So I so appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I couldn't control that my body was exhausted. However, there were a couple things that I still needed to do, right? I'm on deadline for some things. And so I gave myself permission to work in batches. So, if I felt I had a little energy, and instead of looking and saying what absolutely has to be done right now, I looked at everything and I said, you know what do I want to do? And there were some emails that I really wanted to return. Maybe not the 300 that still need to be returned, but there were several of them. I'm like, hey, I'm going to return that because it made me feel good in the moment, right? So I changed my thinking and my attitude about my work. And I said, right now, I'm not going to do what has to be done. I'm going to do what I want to do. And guess what? It gave me more energy and I was able to do other things. Now, another example, and all of you parents out there right now can probably relate to this. So, in the last several weeks, we've had to go through that mental gymnastic, holy struggle, whatever you want to call it, conversation between my husband and I and our 3 kids and say, what are we going to do for school, right? Now, our district has given us an option. I know there are many people out there that you don't have an option. It's just this, right? But we have an option of online or all in person. And, there's pros and cons to both of them. And honestly, I didn't know what to do until I started talking to my kids and my 11-year-old, God bless her, she said, Mommy, I can't do online school. It's killing me. And then one of the kids, I can't remember who said it, but they said, Mom, if we promise not to lick anybody when we're at school, can we go to school? And I said, well, first of all, let's just back up a little bit. That's not actually a thing, right? You're not actually going out and licking people, are you? I hope not. And then, as we were investigating our options and talking it through, it just became apparent that with the online option, it was going to be a third-party entity, which is not necessarily good or bad, but both of our girls are transitioning to a new school. One's going into middle school, one's going into high school, and we felt like it's really important to have that connection with our local teachers and to have that community aspect to it. And so we were kind of leaning towards in person anyway. And then we found out that if you take online courses, you can't do band. And all 3 kids are in band. The 2 oldest are in varsity band and marching band. It's like a big thing. And so that kind of sealed the deal for us. So, is there still some hesitancy? Absolutely. I trust this school district. They have plans with all kinds of options. They have really thought through everything, and I am impressed by their problem-solving strategies. So I know that if something should pop up and that they haven't thought of, I know that they're going to make the right decision. So I have a lot of trust there, okay? And I understand that there's a lot of people out there that's not even a thing for you. Totally get it. So for us, we're choosing to send our kids because it's the best decision for now. Maybe we'll change our minds later. Maybe the circumstances and conditions will be changed for us. We don't know. But for right now, that's what we're choosing. And again, I can't necessarily, it would be great if maybe they could go for a little bit of time every day and then do online. But that's not an option for us, right? So the only thing I can do is control my thinking and my attitude about what's happening. And then the last example I'll share with you, like I alluded to earlier, gosh, August is just busy and we've still got 10, 11 days in the month. There's a lot to be done. Just right now, I'm running, I think, 15 different online courses for teachers. We have 5 virtual summits going on right now, so actual week-long conferences that are happening in the moment. We've got several mastermind groups. We've got our membership group for our empowered leaders. We've just got a lot happening. I'm having a blast with it, by the way. And there's just a lot to do, right? And so amongst all of that, which of course I've designed, and I've invited you guys, and many of you are in those with me, my change in thinking is going to be one thing at a time. I can only do one thing at a time. I can only think about one thing at a time. Take everything one thing at a time. And if I do that, I will be able to accomplish all of August. Okay? So my question to you today is, where are you? Where is your mind at? Okay? Let me say that quote one more time. I don't know if what I'm afraid of is the state of the world. Rather, I think what I'm afraid of is the state of my attitude about the state of the world. So are you more in this fearful place about, whatever's happening in your circumstances and conditions in your part of the world? Or are you thinking more about, how can I adjust myself to what current crazy is in the midst? I think that's really important for you to figure out, number one, where are you at? Because if your focus is outside of you on circumstances or conditions, again, there's no right or wrong here, but it's good to know that, right? And if your focus is more towards, okay, I can't do anything about a global pandemic, but what can I do about myself, right? So know where your mind is, because then you can make an adjustment. Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful. It's so good to be back with you after taking a couple days off. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or maybe you do that reflection and you're like, okay, Michelle, I get it. I'm so totally focused on what's outside myself. Now what? Okay? I would love to chat with you about that. Awesome. So with that, I release you into the wild. Go forth and prosper. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you next time. All right. Bye-bye.